أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله الطاهرين وعلى أصحابه وعلى جميع الأنبياء والمرسلين السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. As people of faith, we believe and we realize that life is but a period of trial and of tests. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala attests to this in the Quran, لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا الَّذِي خَلَقَ الْمَوْتَ وَالْحَيَاةَ لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. Life and death has been given to you, and each one to be tested according to the best of their deeds. As such, lives of people present a kaleidoscope, a variety of challenges. Some of these are small, some of them are big, some are trivial, and some of them are complicated and major. But all of these requires determination, requires courage, requires faith, and it requires patience to endure and to deal with these challenges. So life for sure is meant to be a test. And everyone is bound to experience some level of test. وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ. Numerous ayats in the Quran about this. And more than that, even the prophets themselves, as Rasulullah said, أَشَدُّ النَّاسِ بَلَاءُ الْأَنْبِيَاءِ. The people who went through the most severe tests, the most rigorous tests, have been the prophets. And all of these prophets were models of excellence. And these were guides chosen by Allah to guide humanity. And none of them went through life without trial and tribulations. And their attitude as a whole was, وَلَنَصْبِرَنَّ عَلَى مَا آذَيْتُمُونَ وَعَلَى اللَّهِ فَلْيَتَوَكَّلِ الْمُتَوَكِّلُونَ. We will surely be patient through whatever trials and tribulations that we have to endure. And if you want to rely on Allah, if you want to rely on anyone, rely on Allah. And that is the attitude of the prophets. When we reflect on the trials and tribulations and the response and the patient perseverance of prophets, we find remarkable resolve, remarkable courage, remarkable strength of faith, remarkable inspiration. Ibrahim alayhi salam was thrown into the fire as a child, was tested with the sacrifice of his son Ismail, and he had to deal besides that with the hostility within his household. Yaqub alayhi salam suffered the longing separation from his son Yusuf when some of his sons betrayed their stepbrother, and eventually he himself, Yaqub alayhi salam, lost much of his sight. He endured this in his lifetime. Ayyub alayhi salam suffered severe illnesses to the extent that he was ostracized by his people and even by his family. Musa alayhi salam was left floating as a baby on the river at a time when the authorities killed all the boys they found, even in their homes, and he was left on the river. And he had to deal later with the oppressive rulership of the Pharaoh, and eventually had to defend his people, his innocent people, from the army of Fir'aun. Isa alayhi salam is a child, and the Quran documents in Surah Maryam how he had to defend his innocent mother in public as a small child, accused by senior people in the public, and he was the only one to defend the honor of his mother as a child who was falsely accused of immodesty. And he later confronted his people who were so strict on the letter of the law, but completely oblivious of the spirit of the law. And sometimes we too are like that. We know all the rules and the fiqh and so on, and we lost our humanity in the process, how we apply the law. They opposed his mission, his followers. They rejected him. Even when they wanted to crucify him, he only had about 12 or 13 followers. And yet, his prayer was, Allahumma ghfir li qawmi fa innahum la ya'lamun. Oh Allah, forgive my people, for they know not what they do. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam lost his father before he was born. He lost his mother and was orphaned at the age of 6. They knew him as a Sadiq and al-Amin in his youth. And when he preached to his people, eventually, due to political and financial reasons, they knew he was truthful. He opposed him. They did not follow him. They tried to kill him. They tried to banish him. His companions were persecuted, and some of them found refuge in Africa, in Ethiopia. His family was ostracized and banished. He had to migrate himself from Mecca to Yathrib, which later became Medina. And like Isa alayhi salam, he came unto his own people, but his own people did not receive him. He had to leave Mecca to go to another town. He suffered assassination attempts before leaving from Mecca to Medina. His relatives were boycotted. His followers were killed. His beloved uncle's body was mutilated at the Battle of Uhud. And he often went days without food in his house. And his wife said, there was never a time in the Prophet's life from the time of revelation that he received that he had food for 3 consecutive days. All his children died in his lifetime except Fatima. Yet, such was the selfless nature of the Prophet ﷺ that once somebody insulted him in public and he was crying, and people thought he was crying because he was insulted, and they overheard him whisper. He said, Yarhamullahu akhi Musa. This document is Sahih al-Bukhari. Yarhamullahu akhi Musa qad udhiya bi akthar min hadha fasabar. He wasn't crying because of himself. He cried to think, oh Musa, my brother, may Allah have mercy on you. They troubled you more than this, and yet you were patient. Even in his own anguish, the Prophet remembered the suffering of others. May Allah's peace and blessings forever be upon all the Prophets. Salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhim ajma'een. Shukran wa salamu alaykum wa rahmatullah.